So Bloons Tower Defense 6 added a map editor, and I gotta say it's pretty sick. You see, you can make kinda whatever you want. It feels like a mod, but in the game. And of course you gotta pay big bucks to even get it. Think like 3,000 monkey money or something, I don't know. Editor me will put in the price. But you get a whole bunch of tools to be able to mess around and make what you want. And of course my first thought coming to this map creator was I gotta make something for everybody's favorite tower, the Ultra Juggernaut. But that would actually be a little too easy if you go very straightforward, like just two walls or something in a straight line. No, no, no. I was thinking let's make like an advanced map, one that you gotta try a little bit harder on to be able to beat it. And that's where I came up with the map today. And it's just focused on a bunch of walls everywhere. So while coming up with the design for this map, I was thinking in my head, what would work really well for an Ultra Juggernaut? Obviously, you have to work your way up to an Ultra Juggernaut. You're going to have Juggernaut balls. They're not incredible, but maybe they're pretty decent if you build a map around it. And of course, like I mentioned before, what you want are walls. Lots and lots of walls. Watching them bounce around is fun. But having a bunch of walls can be kind of tough, because if you end up building a sort of circle, then you could just make other towers really dominate, like attack shooter. So I have to think. Multiple lanes meeting somewhere in the middle, that sounds pretty good. But if they're too closely put together, then, attack shooter would kind of run away with it, or maybe boomerang would do really well. But if there's too much line of sight, it would also make, like, snipers a little too strong. So you really got to start thinking, right? If you want this unit to put the work in, you gotta make sure other towers can't really put the work in for it. And that's where I came up with this. You got 4 lanes coming in from each side of the screen, and they're gonna meet in the middle, this wonderful little roundabout, but you got walls encasing basically the entire thing. Now, you might be thinking that would be kind of easy for like a plain monkey to get kind of wacky with it, and that's why you fill out the rest of the map that isn't being used with random decoration. That way you can't just place a bunch of military monkeys around that do the job for you. So it forces you to have to work with the space you have in the middle of the map, which means you're going to have to use towers that have lower footprints so that they're like smaller, or you have to use towers that kind of just work better in tight spaces, or even towers that kind of just can see through walls or something, I don't know. But after coming up with the map, I realized it was actually kind of hard, because when I tried to start with a bunch of dart monkeys, they just couldn't really get the job done. Granted, I'm playing on chimps, because I think it's a lot more interesting and exciting to try to beat a map on chimps, that way you know it's fair. But for a map like this that's focused on a bunch of walls, but you get a couple of pretty good spots to put towers, what actually works really well is something like a glaive ricochet or the ninja seeking stuff, anything that can seek or kind of defeat the purpose of separating track space. But of course, that kind of stuff doesn't last very long, unless it's like a Legend of the Night, and that's just, a busted tower anyway. But glaive ricochet, something like that, it's really good for balloons, but it's not really going to deal with sort of ceramics or Moabs. It's kind of just a good cleanup kind of tower. Or the ninja seeking, maybe if you get like a shinobi army, but I definitely didn't give enough space for a shinobi army. And don't get me wrong, you can come up with different strategies for this map, 100%. I feel like a balloon crush would be really good here. I didn't use it, but you could. Or just setting up towers like a wizard monkey and dragon breath so that you can deal with all the lanes intersecting. But my main focus was I just wanted to see the funny dart monkey throwing Juggernaut balls around, and they bounce off the walls, and it's fun and cool and quirky. And I can say they don't work all that well. It's fun to watch, but it's really not all that effective with the way I made the map. Honestly, I think I might have just made the map a little too hard in general, because, the balls kind of get stuck in, like, certain areas. You got to get the right angle for it. There's not really any straight lines you can shoot down. But that doesn't mean the Ultra Juggernaut wasn't having the time of its life, because that thing splits up into a bunch of balls. So once you got, like, the Ultra Juggernaut and the bigger Juggernaut ones or whatever, then it actually was pretty good. Avoid that Spike-a-Pult, that thing is basically trash. But once you actually get the Juggernaut, the balls are bigger, it takes up more track space, they bounce around a bit more. The Ultra Juggernaut's amazing because it'll bounce around and then separate into a bunch of smaller balls, and those will bounce around. And the main problem you kind of run into if you're trying to spam Juggernauts is that you need Moab damage. and they're not really going to do a bunch of damage against Moab, so you're going to want something like a main Moab to help out, and I found a good sniper spot for that. Now, unsurprisingly, one of the biggest issues for this map was actually DDTs, because you can't have a lot of support towers here if you're trying to focus on damage. And you can't really rely too much on one tower, I feel like, because it's not able to deal with everything well enough. So DDTs become a bit of a problem because you have shorter map length, but you also can't really super buff your towers up a whole lot. So DDTs are able to kind of skirt by pretty easily. They just go through that loop real quick and it's over. And when you have a bunch of that precious track space given up to a bunch of dart monkeys trying to spam Juggernaut balls, then you can kind of see that's not the brightest idea. But I'll be damned if I said it wasn't fun. I mean, it was a pretty fun map to try and get around. I failed a lot on it because it was actually really hard in the early stages. You got to deal with 4 different lanes coming in. They kind of circle around, but there's not really any towers that are have enough range to really deal with the whole thing. I don't know. It's kind of hard. I'm also just not very good at the game though. And I was pretty surprised when I saw the bad actually became difficult. I had to retry the final wave too, because the bad was too beefy for my stuff. I had to build like a sticky bomb or something. But yeah, that's the map. If you want to play it, it's named like Walls, Walls, Walls. You can just find it. I shared it. If you want to see more maps, I'm probably going to make more. I got an idea from this one to make something for wizard monkeys to see through walls. So stick around if you want to see more. I'll do it eventually. I don't know when, but yeah, thanks for watching. Subscribe or something like the video.
Coming clear.